Hello, 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 good people of the internet. How are you all doing today? This is DJ357 here, welcoming you to Dear Esther, or however you want to pronounce that name. This is an indie game, which a lot of people have said, is it a game really? Is it more of an interactive kind of experience? Is it a bit more of just, an interactive story? What's the deal? It's in my Steam library, so I'm just going to assume it's a game. I'm not going to get into that discussion at this point in time because I just want to play through this and see what the story is. Now, this is kind of halfway between an indie short and a full series because I don't know how long this game or this experience is. I only really know just that people are saying it's more of an experience than whatever, so I don't know how long it is. I don't know exactly what it's about, so I'm just going to keep going and I'm going to experience and discover as much as I can about this Dear Esther, and hopefully you'll come along for the ride. So yeah, let's just get started. So looks like we have the lighthouse, the boy, the caves, and the beacon. These are 4 chapters that we can play. Obviously I can only start at the beginning, so we'll start with the lighthouse. Very minimalist loading screen there. So as I say, I know very little about this game, except for the fact that it is quite story oriented. It's not, it's not a shooter. It's not an action game. But
Dear Esther, I've lost track of how long I've been here and how many visits I have made overall. Certainly the landmarks are now so familiar to me that I have to remind myself to actually see the forms and shapes in front of me. I could stumble blind across these rocks, the edges of these precipices, without fear of missing my step and plummeting down to sea. Besides, I've always considered that if one is to fall, it is critical to keep one's eyes firmly open.
It's an interesting philosophy. Okay, so we're able to move around now. So we have a dilapidated lighthouse here on the coast. We have this little small boat here. And I think we just drowned.
Come back.
I was pressing space to see could I jump, and it appears that I can't jump. If I click the left mouse button, he'll focus on things. I can't jump, so right. Let's ignore that and keep going. Okay, so we have this lighthouse here, and another broken boat. So lots of broken windows here. Alright. Suppose we'd best go in and have a look around. Oh, he's popped on his flashlight. Good man. So it's quite windy outside. Okay, so where are we? I have no idea what that says. There's a map of England and Ireland on the desk. Can't read any of that. Some playing cards. Nothing here. And the stairs are broken, so I can't even get up to the lighthouse. Interesting. Okay, that's weird. So there's some sort of chemical being described there on the wall. Just want to have a look and see what my controls are. So I can I can swim up with Q. Quick save, quick load, take screenshot. That's it. Just movement, zooming, and that's it. Okay. Right. I wonder what that's about. My secondary school or high school physics fails me there. I can't quite remember what exactly what compound that is. Okay, so you have what looks like a radio tower or something in the distance. Some more paint here. There's a lot of paint here. Can't see that there's anything useful scrawled on the floor there. Or anywhere else. Okay. I can't even sprint, which is helpful. So I'm just taking the lower path down here just to see what's down here. Doesn't seem like there's very much. Okay. I think I'm going to go back and take the higher path. Some of the textures are kind of bland and but overall it's very atmospheric. There's no music. There's there's your atmospheric sounds. You can hear the ocean. There's wind. It looks quite beautiful actually, despite the fact that this place appears to be completely abandoned and desolate, and has the potential to be quite terrifying. It is quite beautiful in its own way. More paint. What is up with the paint? Ah, right. Well, that's helpful. Now I need to go back down there anyway. Damn it. Wonder what would happen if I was to, yeah, let's see. Whoa! Oh, I survived. Okay, awesome. Clearly this guy knows what he's about. Right, let us forge our forward. So we're down here onto the beach proper. This area is quite well done because obviously you have the interesting bit of, ooh, I wonder what's inside these this little house, and then you just have this flashing light and fire in the distance, kind of tempting you to come take a look and see what the story is. Random stuff strewn across the beach. The water looks quite good as well. Okay, so we're going into...
Mother told me a hush fell over the delivery room. A great red birthmark covered the left side of your face. No one knew what to say, so you cried to fill the vacuum. I always admired you for that you cried to fill whatever vacuum you found. I began to manufacture vacuums, just to enable you to deploy your talent. The birthmark faded by the time you were 6, and had gone completely by the time we met, but your fascination with the empty and its cure remained.
Interesting. Now, I could have forged forward along the beach, I think, but I'm just gonna head up here and see what the story is. So this Esther person, the guy that we appear to be playing as.
The photo of this landscape. It almost appears so well placed as to be artificial. I find myself easily slipping into the delusional state of ascribing purpose deliberate motive to everything here. Was this island formed during the moment of impact? When we were torn loose from our moorings, and the seatbelts cut motorway lanes into our chests and shoulders, did it first break surface then?
What? So what does this island have to do with a car crash? So, as I was saying, it seems that the man that we're playing, or at least the narrator that we're hearing, is not necessarily Esther's father, but knows her mother. And obviously knows Esther as well.
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boat, know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff path died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this: to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
What is he talking about? Okay, it looks like going down along the beach probably wasn't an option. Got some standing stones over there. What infection? I like how this is making me ask questions. This reminds me a lot of Proteus. I've played through Proteus a little bit.
A motley lot with little to recommend them. I have now spent 3 days in their company. That is, I fear, enough for any man not born amongst them. Despite their tedious inclination to quote scripture, they seem to me the most godforsaken of all the inhabitants of the Outer Isles. Indeed, in this case, the very gravity of that term, forsaken by God, seems to find its very apex. It appears to me that Donnelly, too, found those who wander this shoreline to be adrift from any chance of redemption. Did he include himself in that, I wonder?
I wonder who Donnelly is. So, as I say, it reminds me of Proteus. I played a bit of Proteus, but there's no overt story. Everything is implied, and you kind of try and figure it out for yourself. But at least with this, at least with this game or experience, however you want to call it, there is, a narrator and there is some overt storyline there. We're moving further and further away from that radio tower that we saw earlier, towards this part of the coast over here. I wonder where we're going exactly.
I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life.
Okay, weird. So, there's a path heading back that way, and there's a path here into the cave. I'm tempted to take this path, but I think I'm going to go in the cave and see what's going on.
I find myself increasingly unable to find that point where the hermit ends and Paul and I begin. We are woven into a sodden blanket, stuffed into the bottom of a boat to stop the leak and hold back the ocean. My neck aches from staring up at the aerial. It mirrors the dull throb in my gut where I am sure I've begun to form another stone. In my dreams, it forms into a perfect
I think the aerial he's speaking of is the radio tower.
Over her shoulder, staring along the motorway at the approaching traffic in a vacuum of fatalistic calm.
So what is going on here? Somebody's clothes, some fish, some bread, more paint. And then we have that chemical formula again. I think it's some form of alcohol or something like that. Okay, well, cave is just a dead end, so let's head back the other way. There's the lighthouse over there. I think this is going to turn into a series because there's 4 chapters and I am extremely intrigued by this. I do now want to find out exactly what's going on. If that's even possible. Something tells me that I won't quite get all the answers that I'm looking for in this story. So we can trudge through the river here. Okay,
Still maintains
so now we're heading back towards it.
Tired. I can't make the judgment or the distinction anymore. I was drunk when I landed here, and tired too. I walked up the cliff path in near darkness and camped in the bay where the trawler lies beached. It was only at dawn that I saw the bothy and decided to make my temporary lodgings there. I was expecting just the aerial and a transmitter stashed in a weatherproof box somewhere on the mount. It had an air of uneasy permanence to it. Like all the other buildings here, erosion seems to have evaded it completely.
Okay, so he somehow landed on this island. And of course somebody decided to deface the standing stone with a chemical formula. So this seems to be happening in the wake of a car crash. So that begs the question, is this guy still alive? Is this just a dream? Did anybody survive? Did Esther survive? Is he writing letters to a dead person? Is he a dead person writing letters to a live person? These are all the questions that are floating around in my head, while I have such very little information about this story. Of course, I assume these are the questions that the experience is designed to get you asking. Oh, a bit of a drop here. Okay. Loading up the next section now. As I say, I am very intrigued by this, so I think I'm going to play through all the chapters and see what's happening.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my ordnance survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome brake services. But although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
Seen what in his rear view mirror? I'm gonna head up this way just to see what there is to see. So clearly there was some sort of car accident on the M5 between Exeter and Bristol, and this guy is trying to find answers, it seems. So now there's music giving us a bit more atmosphere to things. Seems to serve more as punctuation for the narration more than anything else. I'm not quite sure if there is a path here that I can follow. There seems to be. I'm not quite sure which path I'm supposed to be following.
All night the boy has kept me lucid. I sat when I was at the very edge of despair, when I thought I would never unlock the secret of the island. I sat at the edge and I watched the idiot boy blink through the night. He's mute and he's retarded and he has no thought in his metal head but to blink each wave and each minute aside until the morning comes and renders him blind as well as deaf-mute. In many ways, we have much in common.
Okay. I think this might be the second chapter. Right. And while there was an interesting aside, now I have to trudge all the way back there. Kinda wish I hadn't now. Oh, no, never mind. I misspoke. There's another path leading down here. So down to that trawler. There's a lot of cargo containers on that trawler. It's a bit strange. Maybe it's not the ship that he spoke of, maybe it's something else. I wonder what happened. Okay, so there's a path through there that we can follow. I'm just gonna head down here and see if there's anything to see.
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
New hermits. What does that say? Neither did he eat nor drink. Interesting. Okay, so I guess we're going to follow the path up here.
I had kidney stones, and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
Okay. Ever more cryptic. Ooh, there's a bit of a hole down there.
When I first looked into the shaft, I swear I felt the stones in my stomach shift in recognition.
Well, that's quite creepy. There's a house up there. It looks like a little barn down here.
I've begun my ascent on the windless slope of the western side. The setting sun, with an inflamed eye squeezing shut against the light shone in by the doctors. My neck is aching through constantly craning my head up to track the light of the aerial. I must look downwards, follow the path under the island to a new beginning.
Here's where we get more atmospheric music. It looks like somebody was patched up in here. Got some medical implements, some syringes, bits of blood. I'm really trying to fight back the urge to say interesting, because everything I see makes me go, interesting, in my head.
The bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jacobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not work. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either.
So, it looks like there was a path that bypasses this, and I could ignore the house, but obviously I don't want to do that. I want to investigate. So I'm going to head over here to this first, see what the story is. Looks like the remnants of a fire. Somebody tried to... The London Clinic. Can't really make that out. What's a test for something? Oh, they're not all negative. One of them is positive. There's that chemical symbol again. So you can see, just notice now, you can actually see the way that these plants are generated. They're always facing towards you. When you're not paying attention to them, you don't really notice it. What is that? And who painted it? That's another question.
When the oil lamps ran out, I didn't pick up a torch, but used the moonlight to read by. When I've pulled the last shreds of sense from it, I will throw Donnelly's book from the cliffs, and perhaps myself with it. Maybe it will wash back up through the caves and erupt from the spring when the rain comes, making its return to the hermit's cave. Perhaps it will be back on the table when I wake. I think I may have thrown it into the sea several times before.
Weird. And there's a sonogram sitting here. July 13th, 2004, with an invalid passport. During this period, my health has steadily deteriorated. Okay, that's weird. Somebody's clearly been sleeping here. Based on his comments, it appears to be himself, but... I can't be sure. I don't know how to judge this. Wow. Actual sign of other life. Ah, okay, so that path that I was speaking about. Yeah, it doesn't so much bypass the house as go around back. Okay. Seems to be a cave over there. Don't think I can get to it though. Okay, so let's continue. So where the heck are we going now? Earlier I mentioned under the island. Well, that would certainly be interesting.
In a footnote, the editor comments that at this point, Donnelly was going insane as syphilis tore through his system like a drunk driver. He's not to be trusted. Many of his claims are unsubstantiated, and although he does paint a colourful picture, much of what he says may have been derived directly from his fever. But I've been here, and I know, as Donnelly did, that this place is always half imagined. Even the rocks and caves will shimmer and blur with the right eyes.
I don't know if he's quite qualified to comment though, given that he is either A, not alive, or B, suffering the effects of a car crash.
Even though he'd been dead nearly 7 months, his body had been frozen right down to the nerves and had not even begun to decompose. All around him small flowers were reaching for the weak sun. The goats had adjusted happily to life without a shepherd and were grazing freely about the valley. Donnelly reports they hurled the body in fear and disgust down the shaft, but I cannot corroborate this story.
I don't think you really need to corroborate it. It sounds fairly reasonable. There's some sort of remnants of a ship sitting here. Okay, so we're heading into a cave down here. It'll probably link up to the other one.
Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
Okay. He doesn't seem to walk like a man with a broken femur. Let's say it's unclear. What is going on here? Do I have to go down there? Yikes. Or do I go up here? No. It's unclear how the narrator relates to the player here. Whoa. Okay, so now we go down into the caves. Oh, that didn't sound good.
Donnelly's addiction is my one true constant. Even though I wake in false dawns and find the landscape changing and flowing in constantly through my tears, I know his reaching is always upon me.
Interesting. And as I say, I can't help saying that all the time. Oh, his flashlight is broken. Damn it. Okay, so we've been playing for a good bit of time here. As I say, I'm extremely intrigued by this. So I was at the beginning unsure as to whether this would be a short or a series, so it's going to be a short series. So we'll stop it here. We seem to be at the halfway point, because we're now on the caves chapter, which is chapter 3, and then there's another chapter after that, chapter 4. So say we're at the halfway point. We'll leave it there, and we'll come back in the next episode. So thanks very much for coming along, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe if you did so. Please leave some feedback. Let me know what you think about the story. Let me know what you think is going to happen. Let me know if you've played this. Please don't spoil it for me. Don't tell me what's happening. But give me your thoughts on the story, on the game. And as I mentioned earlier on, there is a discussion as to whether this is a game or just an interactive movie or an interactive experience. I'm kind of torn on that. I'm not quite sure, but I don't. I'm not going to go into it now. But feel free to go into it in the comments below. So thanks very much for coming along for the ride, guys, and we'll talk to you next time. Take care. And it's just us and the stars.